You spend 30 years in a house, raising a family, fixing leaky faucets. You never think the biggest crack in the foundation would be made by your own daughter. My name is Brenda Mills. I'm 68 years old, recently retired from 40 years as a bookkeeper. I've always been meticulous with numbers, every penny tracked, every receipt filed, every decision backed by math and logic. That's who I am. That's how I've lived. When Tom died 12 years ago, I stayed in our house. It was full of memories, but it was also full of me, the life we built together, the life I built after he was gone. My daughter Chloe kept insisting I should sell. She's a real estate agent, ambitious and certain she knows best about everything. But I didn't want to sell. I wanted to stay. 3 years ago, I had an idea. The house had an addition that could easily be converted into a separate rental unit. I researched the zoning laws carefully, the way I research everything. I discovered that because the house was built in 1987, before certain zoning restrictions changed, it fell under grandfathered status. The conversion was perfectly legal. I hired contractors. I drew up plans. I felt, for the first time in years, like I was doing something new. Building something. Not just maintaining what already existed. When I told Chloe at Christmas, she was dismissive. "It's a bad plan," she said. "Emotional, not financial. You're not thinking clearly." "I've balanced books for 40 years," I told her. "I know what I'm doing." "You think in small, safe numbers," she said. "You don't see the big picture." I went ahead anyway. The renovation began in March. 3 weeks later, a city inspector showed up with a stop work order. The letter alleged I was operating an illegal rooming house without permits. There was a fine. Everything had to stop immediately. I felt the ground fall away beneath me. I sat on my front steps crying when Walter from next door found me. Walter is a retired building inspector, my neighbor for 40 years. When he read the order, his face darkened. "This is nonsense," he said. "Let me make some calls." An hour later, he returned with documentation I'll never forget. The complaint, he said quietly, came from a number registered to Chloe Mills Realty. My daughter had filed a false complaint with the city to stop my renovation. But it got worse. Walter showed me the zoning bylaws, the grandfathering provision highlighted in yellow. My conversion was completely legal. Chloe's complaint wasn't just mean-spirited. It was based on a lie about the law itself. I felt something shift inside me then, a crack in the foundation of my relationship with my daughter that I didn't know how to repair. Walter helped me file a formal appeal with the city, presenting the zoning documentation and a telecom affidavit confirming the complaint's origin. He helped me file a grievance with the real estate board. I played the devastated, defeated mother in all my phone calls with Chloe, letting her think I'd given up. 6 weeks later, the stop work order was lifted. The fine was rescinded. The real estate board opened an investigation. Then Chloe came to my house. "I know what you did," she said. Her voice was ice. "And here's what's going to happen. You're going to withdraw the complaint to the board, you're going to list the house with me to sell, or I will tell the entire family that you're showing signs of dementia. I'll say you're forgetting bills, getting lost while driving. I'll document it. I'll build a case. I'll petition the court to have you declared incompetent and have myself appointed as your guardian." She said this calmly, like she was discussing a business transaction. "You won't control your money anymore. You won't control anything. I will." I couldn't breathe. Walter told me what to do, prove I was competent. The next day, I scheduled a comprehensive cognitive assessment with my doctor. I called a lawyer and had her draw up legal documents, power of attorney, advance directives, officially stating my wishes while of sound mind. My doctor's assessment came back perfect. My memory was excellent. My cognitive function was sharp. I had it documented in writing. Then I called a family meeting. My brother Michael came from Phoenix. My uncle Richard and Aunt Patricia drove over. My cousin Susan came. Walter came as my witness. I stood in my living room and told them everything. I showed them the city records. I played a recording of Chloe explaining exactly what she intended to do. I presented my medical documentation of sound mind. I explained her threat in clinical detail. The room went silent. "She filed a false complaint," I said. Then, when that didn't work, She threatened to have me declared incompetent. Both calculated. Both cruel. Michael went pale. Uncle Richard's jaw tightened. Aunt Patricia cried. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" Michael asked. "Because I needed proof," I said. "I needed documentation. I needed to make sure this wasn't just my word against hers. So I did what I've always done. I kept careful records." The real estate board suspended Chloe's license for 6 months. The investigation report was public, a detailed account of her false complaint, her misrepresentation of facts, her attempt to manipulate me into using her services. I didn't feel satisfied. I felt sad. Years passed. David Chin, my tenant, was quiet and reliable. The rent came in every month like clockwork. Walter and I fell into a comfortable rhythm of Saturday coffees and book club. My brother visited. My uncle sent a card saying he was proud of me. Chloe didn't contact me. Then one day, a letter arrived. She'd been in therapy, she wrote. She'd been working on understanding why she needed to control everything, why she interpreted disagreement as failure. She apologized specifically, honestly, without asking for forgiveness. She said she understood if our relationship couldn't be repaired. I cried reading it. I wrote back saying I wasn't ready yet, that I needed to see if this change was real, that I needed to feel safe again, but that I didn't hate her. A year later, I agreed to meet her for coffee. We sat across from each other in a neutral coffee shop, awkward and careful. She looked tired but genuine. We didn't solve anything that day, but we began something, a slow, fragile rebuilding based on honesty instead of control. Now, 5 years after the stop work order, we have coffee once a month. She's different. Better. Still ambitious, but gentler. Still certain sometimes, but questioning herself more. She visits for Thanksgiving. It's not what it was before, but it's becoming something real. I still live in my house. The rental income has allowed me to travel, to help my family, to breathe easier. The addition is comfortable and well-maintained. David has stayed on as my tenant for years. He's become almost like family. Walter and I have remained constant, every Saturday without fail, sometimes with no words spoken, just two people who understand each other in the way you do when you've known someone for 40 years. I've learned something about strength through all of this. It's not about being loud or controlling. It's about standing alone if you have to. It's about trusting your own numbers when the world tells you otherwise. It's about knowing that being careful and quiet and meticulous is its own kind of power. I was a bookkeeper my whole life. I balanced other people's accounts, tracked every penny, ensured nothing was ever missing or unexplained. But the most important balance I've learned to keep is this: between compassion for those who hurt us and protection of ourselves. Between forgiveness and boundaries. Between hope and realism. To anyone facing betrayal from someone who thinks they know better, trust your own numbers. Your balance sheet is your truth. Document everything. Stand alone if necessary. And know that strength doesn't announce itself. It simply persists quietly until the world has no choice but to acknowledge it. That's what I did. And that's how I survived. The Saturday coffee with Walter had become as regular as the sunrise. 5 years after the storm with Chloe, our ritual was the bedrock of my week. We sat in my kitchen, the morning light streaming across the table, dissecting a new mystery novel. The doorbell rang. It was David, my tenant. He looked uncharacteristically flustered. "Brenda, I'm so sorry to bother you," he said, holding out a thick, official-looking envelope. "This was in my mailbox by mistake. It's addressed to you, but it's from a law firm I don't recognize." The return address was for Hartwell and Associates, Trust and Estates. I didn't have a Hartwell and Associates. My heart gave a familiar, uneasy thud. I thanked David, my bookkeeper's mind already whirring, suspicious of an unexpected variable. Walter watched me, his eyes sharp. "Everything all right, Bren?" "I don't know," I said, slicing the envelope open with a butter knife. Inside was a cover letter and a copy of a newly filed document. My eyes scanned the legalese, and the world tilted for the second time in my life. It was a notice of contest against my will. Someone was challenging it, claiming I lacked testamentary capacity when I signed it. The will that left the house, my life's work, to be split between a local literacy charity and a trust for any future grandchildren Chloe might have. The name of the petitioner wasn't Chloe. It was David, my quiet, reliable tenant of 5 years. The man who'd just handed me the evidence of his own betrayal with a convincing mask of concern. The crack in my foundation widened into a chasm. It wasn't my daughter this time. It was the man I'd trusted with a key to my property, the one I'd considered almost like family. He hadn't been building a home. He'd been building a case, waiting for the right moment to pounce, likely hoping to inherit the house he'd been living in for a pittance. I looked up at Walter, my hands steady but my voice a whisper. "It's David." Walter's face went stony. He took the papers from me, his retired inspector's eyes scanning the lines. "He's gotten greedy," he muttered. "Sees a lonely old woman and a prime property." But then, a cold, meticulous clarity settled over me. The same clarity that had helped me survive 40 years of balancing ledgers and my daughter's treachery. David had made one critical error. I walked to my filing cabinet, the same one that had held the zoning documents that saved me from Chloe. I pulled a folder labeled Tenancy, David Chin. Inside was a copy of his original rental application, his references, and, crucially, a video recording from the day he signed the lease. On it, at my insistence, following the ordeal with Chloe, I had explicitly stated, on camera, the full terms of my will and my soundness of mind. "I am of sound mind and body," I said clearly to the camera, with David nodding in agreement beside me. "This house will not be part of a tenancy agreement or any future claim." It was a clause I'd added for my own protection, a lesson hard learned. David, in his greed, had forgotten about my meticulous nature. He had forgotten that a bookkeeper never, ever, operates on assumptions. She operates on proof. I handed the USB drive to Walter. He forgot the paper trail, I said, a grim smile touching my lips for the first time since the doorbell rang. Walter nodded, a matching look of resolve in his eyes. Then let's go balance his books for him. The fight wouldn't be with tears or threats. It would be with timestamps, video evidence, and the cold, hard math of the law. David thought he was inheriting a windfall. He was about to inherit a lawsuit for filing a frivolous claim and an eviction notice. The foundation of my life had been tested again, but this time, I was the one holding the blueprints. And I knew, with every fiber of my being, that it was still rock solid.